In this video we're going to be looking at how to do a box and whisker plot, and now what we've got here is the data from our reaction times. Alright, so I've just pulled out one thing. Now the next thing that you need to do with your data is to go from lowest to highest. Okay, so I've ordered that in Excel. And then what we've got is we've got 11 bits of data here. So what we have to do is we have to go halfway and find the halfway value. So there should be 5 either side. So I'm going to mark that in red. So if we count them, I reckon you'll find there's 5 bits of data there, 5 bits of data there. So this value here is our median value, our middle value. That's that value there, number 17. So on our particular graph over here, we'll put that in a second in the box part. Now what you'll notice is that when we do our Q1 and Q3, they should be the halfway mark between now that particular value. So what we've got here is we've got 2 values there, we've got 2 values there, and so therefore this value here is our Q1. And again, we've got 2 values here, we've got 2 values here, so therefore that is our Q3. Alright, so what we're going to do when we do our box and whisker plot, we're going to put those values in the box. Alright, so we know our median value is 17. I'm just going to do this freehand. So I'm going to draw that line there. We're going to draw our Q1 at 16. So that's going to be a line there. And then we're going to do our Q3 at 18. And that will be a line there. So therefore we'll make that into a box. That's the box part. Now that counts for 50% of our data here. Then what we do is we do our next part of the box, which is our min value. That's what our min value is. And then we do our max value. Our max value is 24. So this person, when they did their data for that one there, that's almost an outlier. Okay, so there was only one value that's sort of out that way. Nice straight line there. So if we were talking about looking at our data and we looked at a graph, we'd probably look at the graph skewing out that way there. So what we'd be talking about is it's skewed to the positively, right? So therefore we'd say that is positively skewed. Now the idea would be to have another set of data. If we had another set of data, I'm just going to draw something just to make it realistic for you. Alright, so you might have another set of data. There's my box part. Okay, and then I might have my whisker part. And so therefore you could start comparing those 2 sets of data. Let's say if this was my dominant hand and this one over here, when I'm looking at this, was my non-dominant hand, then what would you talk about? Well, if you're looking at your middle value, if we compare those 2 things, then what you'd be saying is our median value or our middle value, that our non-dominant hand has a lower reaction time than our dominant hand. So if you're comparing those 2 bits of data, you'd be saying that your non-dominant hand is actually quicker. Not that that might be true or not. And again, if you're looking at Q1, right, our Q1 value, which is this value here, well, they're equal, aren't they? So there's no comparison there that they are equal. The Q3 value though, you could say that that's actually much less than the other Q3, so therefore it's another sign that our non-dominant hand is in fact quicker. Right, now in reality that's probably not true. Get the idea? So we're comparing different bits of data. We can also make some things like you could say 50% in this particular question here, you could say, and I'll just go and write this down for you so you can remember it. You could say 50% of the people have a reaction time of 0.18. Okay, so that's that value there for the dominant hand. And for the non-dominant hand, you could say that it's this value here, that it's 0.17, the non-dominant hand. Okay, because 50%, so each of these sections in here are 25% of your data. Alright, you could say 75%, again we're looking at our dominant hand, that would be 19, 0.9. Remember it was 19.9 of a second, and then you'd say this one over here is 0.18. That's dominant hand and non-dominant hand. Alright, so that's 75% of the people with their non-dominant hand got 0.18 or less, where you could say the people with their dominant hand got 0.19 or less. So that would be enough information to talk about and say that, you know, the dominant hand here is actually slower than the non-dominant hand. Alright, so but the key skill is that you need to be able to draw your box and whisker plot. I'm going to quickly show you in Excel. It can actually do that for you. So if you have data in Excel, it can actually do this for you. Alright, so I'll just blow that up a bit so you can see that clearly. And we'll go 200%. Okay. Alright, so in terms of Excel, you have a graph. You have some different graphs. You've got your data there. You don't even have to have it in order for it to do this bit. So we have to find the graph, and I think it's in this one here. So histogram, it calls box and whisker plot. Okay, so that's actually done the box and whisker plot for you. Instead of it being horizontal, it's vertical. Now the only thing there is it's all squashed up. Okay, so what I might do is go and change, if I right click on the axes over here, I can format my axes, I can make my smaller value a little bit smaller, and I might go 12, enter, see how it stretches it out, and I might my top one, well that's okay, I think you get the idea there. Okay, so again, so this is the true data for someone, alright, so the blue one is the dominant hand, and the red and the orange one is the non-dominant hand. So you can see 75% of the results for the non-dominant hand are 21 or below, where 75% are 18 or below. So that would suggest that the non-dominant or the dominant hand is much quicker. Right? Even though we got our smallest value with our non-dominant hand, right? You can see that, you know, over here 75%, it's much there. 50% is below 17 seconds, 0.17 seconds, where 50% is 0.18. So that's enough evidence to prove, I think, that the non-dominant hand is a little bit slower in this case. Alright, hope this helps. Remember the key skill is you need to be able to do your box and whisker plot. Now I've shown you the two ways, one by hand, one by doing it where you actually have information in a Excel and you can actually do it in a graph. Now the good thing about this is you could bring this graph and put it into a Word document, which would be maybe your report or on your investigation. Anyway, I'll leave the video here and we'll do some examples of this in class.